ABC 10 News starts now with breaking news.
Excuse me?
President Trump was abruptly escorted from his daily coronavirus news briefing, later saying that a shooting had occurred just outside the White House. Good evening. I'm Steve Atkinson.
And I'm Lindsay Pena. This is new video of the heavy police presence you can see just outside the White House following that incident. All of this unfolded just before 3 o'clock our time. A Secret Service agent approached the president and told him to leave the briefing room. The president followed that agent out. Just a few minutes later, the president returned.
There was a shooting outside of the White House and seems to be very well under control. I'd like to thank the Secret Service for doing their always quick and very effective work. But there was an actual shooting, and somebody's been taken to the hospital. I don't know the condition of the person.
And the president said he was taken to the Oval Office and said that he was not shaken by the incident.
Closer to home, a family in La Jolla is dealing with unimaginable loss. A grandfather and his 8-year-old granddaughter were killed when their home caught on fire early this morning. As our ABC 10 News reporter Rachel Bianco shows us, investigators are now trying to figure out what sparked that fire.
Firefighters have been out here all day. First, they need to stabilize the home so it doesn't collapse, then they can go in and begin their investigation. A firefighter's cell phone video shows what crews were up against. Flames quickly consumed the 2-story house on Caminito La Paz. Pat Neeson has lived next door to the family for 2 decades. The fire dangerously close to her home.
I'm so lucky. I left, I didn't even have shoes on. I just grabbed my dogs, my phone, and prayed.
Pat woke up to the sound of screaming just before 4 a.m.
I started hearing glass and breaking, and I go, what is going on? And then I saw a few small flames. I immediately called 911, and it was just a little bitty fire that turned into a big fire.
A big fire that turned deadly. Family members say an 8-year-old girl who is nonverbal and has severe autism died in the fire, along with her 80-year-old grandfather. The girl's dad, seen here, and her 10-year-old sister made it out. The dad suffered burns trying to rescue them. The captain says the first crews got here in roughly a minute, but the fire was already out of control. The roof quickly collapsed.
You think about your family being in that same situation, it's doubly stressful. Add in that we're going through very tough times right now. The stress of the pandemic.
Firefighters brought in a service dog to help comfort the family and the crews who tried so hard to save their loved ones. The 10-year-old girl and her dad are still in the hospital. They're expected to make a full recovery. Firefighters have not yet released their names. In La Jolla, Rachel Bianco, 10 News.
Heartbreaking for that family. A few neighbors were evacuated, but the fire did not spread to their homes.
Now to the coronavirus pandemic. Confusion is building as millions of Americans wait on financial help from President Trump's executive order. State leaders and the federal government are still trying to figure out when and how the money will be distributed. As CNN's Jeremy Diamond reports, the White House is defending the president's move.
Today, confusion and uncertainty for millions of Americans waiting on help from Washington.
We think it's going to be very rapid. We want it to be very rapid.
2 days after President Trump signed an executive action promising $400 per week to out-of-work Americans, the White House is shifting responsibility to the states.
We hope to see it quickly and close to immediately. I don't have an exact readout for you on time, but a lot of this will depend on states and them applying.
And blaming Democrats for any delays in the president's new program.
Any delay that does exist, it's important to note where that delay and the responsibility rests, and it's with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer.
And beyond delays, many unemployed Americans might not see any new money unless their governor agrees to pay a quarter of the costs and administer the new benefit. Many states already cash-strapped amid the pandemic, unable to chip in and caught off guard by Trump's proposal.
If he thinks this is a resolution, this only makes the bad situation worse.
Trump also facing criticism from within his own party. Today, firing back at Republican Senator Ben Sasse, who called Trump's executive actions unconstitutional slop. Tweeting Rhino, or Republican in name only, Ben Sasse has gone rogue again. And while Trump took a victory lap this weekend,
we've gotten much of what we've wanted without having to give up anything. And that's very good. You can't beat that.
Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin suggesting the administration is still in a deal-making mood.
We're prepared to put more money on the table. So there are things, as I said, that made sense to compromise. We've compromised. If we can get a fair deal, we'll do it this week.
The president claiming his unilateral action is bringing Democrats back to the table.
The Democrats have called. They'd like to get together.
But the Democrats baffled.
Fables from Donald Trump. Fables. That's what he seems to specialize in. I didn't call him. Speaker Pelosi didn't call him. No, we didn't call him. He makes these things up.
Trump has yet to engage directly in the latest negotiations, and he hasn't talked to Pelosi since October.
That was Jeremy Diamond reporting. Critics of Trump's executive order say some jobless Americans may never see that extra $400 simply because states don't have the money to meet federal requirements.
California's top public health official has resigned. In her resignation letter, Dr. Sonia Angel, she doesn't say why she's stepping down as director and state public health officer for the California Department of Public Health. But this does come just days after the state announced a glitch that caused the state and the counties to underreport the number of coronavirus cases. The state will fill Angel's positions with two different people. And today, Governor Newsom dodged questions about whether he called for Dr. Angel's resignation, but says the backlog is now completely processed.
The decision was made. I applaud Dr. Angel for making the decisions she made. I've made it crystal clear. We've built a new team. Dr. Galley has as well. We have fixed the backlog. We're moving in a direction not only to address the short-term issues, but as I said, the medium-term issues with this system.
To individual counties for contract tracing before it's included in the state's total COVID case number. Newsom says that work should be done here in about 72 hours.
Now to the latest numbers on the coronavirus in San Diego County. There are 5 new outbreaks, one each in a restaurant bar, a business, a grocery store, and a government setting. 228 new cases were reported today, bringing the total to just under 33,000. And there were no reported deaths, which is usually the case on Mondays, so that number stands at 594. San Diego Unified School leaders say distance learning will probably continue for months. The warning comes at the same time the district released strict standards for reopening schools. Team 10 investigator Adam McCusin joins us live. And Adam, did they say the conditions for reopening schools will be stricter than the state?
Yeah, they say they're some of the strictest around this because they're going to be taking the state guidance and merging that with the county guidance. So you have a lot of guidance there. There's a big old 60-page report that I've been looking at that talks about reopening and how they're using science-based standards to get there. When school does go back, masks will be required for all students and staff on San Diego Unified campuses. Superintendent Cindy Martin says the district purchased $11 million worth of personal protective equipment and has received around 200,000 masks along with 14,000 bottles of hand sanitizer. The district says, along with masks, social distancing, and air quality are the most important factors schools must reassess in light of the new standards. During a virtual press conference, school leaders said that they are taking a look at the ventilation systems, windows, and how much learning can be done in outdoor settings. They also talked about health and safety standards in the community, merging both that state and county guidelines. They're going to be looking at case rates, community outbreaks, testing positivity, hospital capacity, and several other figures.
We're not going to just flip some switch at any point. Even schools that are saying, okay, we're going to stay closed for this amount of time, do not have an idea of what the conditions are going to be once they have the date they have set for reopening. So we're going to do this in phases.
We are extremely aware and extremely concerned about the situation facing the vast majority of our students and our families by being out of school.
So according to the school board, if you were thinking you're going to be heading back to school sometime soon for in-person learning, that's probably going to be more like months than weeks. They don't have an exact date on when in-person learning will go back. Adam Merkusen, ABC 10 News.
San Diego salon owners are traveling to Sacramento to rally against having to work outside. They're joining other stylists in the state who will demonstrate on the Capitol steps tomorrow, demanding to work inside. They argue salons are cleaner than most stores due to standards and regulations. This comes after the governor shut down indoor services again in July, including salons, after a spike in coronavirus cases. Stylists say working outside is just not feasible.
It's worn on people. It's causing people to move out of the state of California. They're just getting out of hair. They're retiring early.
That protest is tomorrow at 1 p.m. Stylists will be cutting hair on the Capitol steps, hoping lawmakers hear their plea.
A San Diego Census Supervisor is sounding the alarm over what he says are inadequate protections for workers knocking on our doors amid the pandemic. Our ABC 10 News reporter John Horn explains why the supervisor made the decision to go public with his safety concerns.
Jason Walters took a job as a census field supervisor because it looked like fun and he needed the money. He never expected to be going out on a limb.
I want to get the word out.
He's concerned about his team of 11 census takers knocking on doors around Mira Mesa to collect data from those who didn't respond. Walters says the government gave each worker a Ziploc bag with just 2 cloth masks and hand sanitizer. He says not nearly enough.
We would be sending them into harm's way with nothing but a piece of cloth over their face.
The concern is that when people are home and come to the door, they're less likely to be wearing a mask. Walters is now pushing for the Census Bureau to provide its field workers plastic face shields, a request he has tried to escalate with no success.
And they wish that they had them, but it's not going to happen. And so if I want them, then go ahead and get them, but you're not getting paid back.
Walters did exactly that, shelling out about $50 on Amazon.com to supply his crew. But he's alarmed by the number of seniors he sees signing up as census takers.
We're not talking about, body armor. We're talking about plastic masks.
And he'd like to see the government pony up for them too. John Horn, ABC 10 News.
The Census Bureau referred us to a recent joint statement with the CDC. It says census takers, they are trained to wear their masks, maintain 6 feet of social distance, practice hand hygiene, and not enter any homes to do those interviews.
In other news, a massive gas line explosion rocked a neighborhood of northwest Baltimore this morning. That blast killed at least 1 woman and injured 6 others. All of them are in serious condition. Officials said 3 rows of homes were completely leveled and a 4th row was partially destroyed. Rescue crews are combing through the rubble looking for survivors.
This is still a rescue operation at this time. It's not a recovery operation, it's a rescue operation because we still are in the unknown at this point.
The cause of the gas line explosion is still under investigation. Baltimore Gas and Electric said the city does have aging pipes that would cost $1 billion to replace over 2 decades. Lebanon's Prime Minister Hassan Diab is stepping down. The announcement comes 6 days after a warehouse explosion that was caused by tons of ammonium nitrate stored at Beirut's port. The catastrophic event has left at least 160 people dead and more than 6,000 wounded. It was followed by days of demonstrations where people blamed the prime minister and the state for failing to stop this disaster. Diab will continue his duties until a new government is installed.
The Mountain West